Quiet, please. No need to shout. No need to yell. No need to have a riot. Shut your eyes. Take a deep breath. Oh, you've gone all quiet.
The noise. If my father wanted you to be quiet, he didn't say shush. He didn't say be quiet. He didn't say shut up. All he did was put his hand out to the side of his face and say in a quiet voice that sounded as if there was some kind of terrible pain in the middle of his brain. The noise. It was as if the palm of his hand was trying to reach inside his head to get at some awful thing in there. So, we would be going on a car trip. Dad driving, Mum next to him, me and my brother in the back. My brother says, "There's an imaginary line down the middle of the back seat. I'm this side, you're that side, you can't cross the line. I'm this side of the line, you're that side of the line. So, yeah, no, I get the point. I say there's a line and you can't cross the line." He says, so I say, yeah, no, I get the point. I won't cross the line. And then I stick my hand over the line. No. Hey, he says, "You crossed the line." I didn't. No. Then I stick my hand across the line again and again. No. "You crossed the line," he says. I didn't. I say, and I stick my hand across the line again. No. "Mum, you crossed the line." I didn't. I say, and my dad's hand goes up to the side of his face and the noise. My brother used to imitate it. If I was making a racket, my brother would walk round the house going, the noise. So it's breakfast. My dad couldn't stand any noise at breakfast once, and it was the glare. He comes downstairs, sits down in the chair, opens up the newspaper. You can't see him. He's disappeared. One moment you've got a dad, and the next all you've got is a newspaper. All you can see is his hand. It comes out from behind the newspaper, moves across the table all on its own, finds the cup of coffee, and then disappears behind the newspaper. He didn't even drop the newspaper to see where the cup was. He just knew where it was. We used to stare at the hand coming out, grabbing the cup, disappearing behind the paper. Once, my brother moved the coffee cup. He goes, the hand came out. Couldn't find the cup. The newspaper came down. "What's going on?" says my dad. He grabs the cup and disappears again behind the paper. And once I sat there and a little voice inside me said, "Hey, why don't you practice playing drums on the side of the table?" I said, "No, that'd be crazy. Dad can't stand any noise at breakfast." And the little voice said, "Yeah, but you know you want to. Go on and pick up the knife and fork and away you go." No, I couldn't. But I did. Knife, fork, side of the table, and the newspaper came down and my dad's hand went up to the side of his face. He started to say, "The noise," but my brother was in there quick with "the noise," and my dad was left there with his hand in midair, still trying to say the...
Australia. We went to Australia. It was a great time for beasties. They were all over us. Ants, mosquitoes, spiders, stick insects, lizards, horseflies. Even the birds in Australia fly out of the sky at you. You walk under a tree where a magpie's nesting and it dive bombs you. You have to duck out of the way or you end up with a magpie stuck in your head. We went to stay in the bush. We were staying in a little old house. Next door to the house was the outside toilet, and next door to that was another little old house where the children were going to sleep. First night we were there, I said, "Okay, off you go to the toilet, then off to your little house, and I'll come and tuck you in a moment." I sat down to read something when I heard this screaming noise from outside. "Yeah, oi!" I rushed out to see what was going on, and my kids were standing outside the toilet, screaming, "There's a spider in the toilet, Dad!" I said, "I don't believe it. We've travelled all these thousands of miles, and the first night we get there, all you can say is, There's a spider in the toilet, Dad. No, it's horrible. It's going to eat us while we're doing it. Okay, I said, I'll go in there and have a look. I looked. Up, down, round, behind. No spider in there. It's up on the wall. It's gonna drop on us while we're sitting there. I said, I tell you, there is no spider in there at all. I was looking all round. No spider, any... And there it was, up on the wall. A great, grey, furry thing, all quivery. Its little beady eyes staring at me like it was growling. I started backing off. Look, kids, don't worry about it. Just go in there, do what you got to do, and get out again. And they're pushing me back into the toilet. No, get rid of it, Dad. It's going to eat us. So I said, okay. Of course I'm not scared. I'll get rid of it, sure. But as I got up to it, I thought, how do you get rid of it? What do? Go up to it and say, hi, we're just in from England. I'm Mike. These are my children. Can we use your toilet? But it went on looking at me. So I looked round for something to get it with, and I found the toilet brush. Perfect. I know what I'll do. There's a gap between the top of the wall and the roof. I'll flick it through the gap. So I started out towards it, stretching out with the toilet brush. Nothing hurried, nice and easy. Don't want it to jump off the wall at me. Of course, I'm not scared. I'm doing it, aren't I? It is me. Then I reached with the end of the toilet brush and flick. I got rid of it. Over the top of the wall. Brilliant. I got rid of the spider. Yeah. Then I looked down at the brush. There it was, crawling up the handle of the brush towards my hand. I shot the brush like mad. That got rid of it. Oof. I don't want to be bothered like that again. Then my son Joe says, Dad, yeah, look at your foot. Why, what's the matter with it? I look down. It's sitting there on my bare foot. Get up. Oof. That got rid of it. Of course I wasn't scared. No, of course not. The next night we were sitting around having tea, and my Eddie, now 7 years old, walks in from outside in his bare feet. Dad, quick, over here. There's a scorpion over here. Now, you know what scorpions are, don't you? Yeah, they're like little land lobsters with a tail that's a sting that curls right over from the back and wobbles about in front of them. Zing, zing, zing. And they've got two big nippers that go slicey. And I said, don't be silly, Eddie. They don't have scorpions in Australia. Do you think we would let you walk about in bare feet if we knew there were scorpions here? You could tread on one of those, and next thing you know, it stings you, and your foot is swelling up like a football. Or even worse, you could sit on one of those things and... You'd know about it, believe me. Dad, it's a scorpion. Come over here and have a look. I said, I don't know what it is, but it's not a scorpion, okay? They're unbelievably dangerous. 1 foot on one of those and... Dad, listen to what I'm saying. It's a scorpion. I said, okay, I'll come and have a look, but it won't be a scorpion, okay? I went over to have a look. Stand back, everybody. Stand back. That is really dangerous. That is a scorpion. Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you, Dad. Nobody go anywhere near it. And I looked round for the biggest thing I could find. It turned out to be Richard Scarry's giantest book ever. I lifted up above my head and blam! Right on it, little bits of scorpion went flying off in all directions. That wasn't very green of me, was it? Probably wrecked the food chain in the area for hundreds of years. Anyway, I swept the bits of scorpion out and I said to Eddie, lucky you didn't tread on that. 1 foot on it and he's nodding at me, not saying anything. Next day he comes up to me and he says, you know that scorpion yesterday? Yeah, I did tread on it. You trod on that scorpion yesterday. Why didn't you tell me at the time? And he shrugged his shoulders and said, What do you mean you don't know? I don't know. And I've never found out why he didn't tell me that he trod on the scorpion. Why couldn't he have said, Oh, Dad, I've trod on a scorpion. One day, Joe went to the shower. He came running out of the shower. He was pointing back at the shower without saying anything. I went over and had a look. In the corner of the shower, on the ground, was this thing. It was like a fat grey snake thing with legs, and when it saw me, it opened its mouth. Oh. And it was a huge mouth, like a little crocodile, except the mouth inside was bright red, and in the middle of the mouth was a little blue tongue that waggled to and fro like it was saying, Don't you come in here, or I'll bite your leg off. And I said, It's okay, it's okay, we won't come in here, relax. The shower is all yours. And when I turned round to leave, I brushed up against the shower curtain, and this 1 foot long stick insect flew into my face. It felt like a flying hand coming for me. Don't worry about them, my Australian friend said when we got back to the city. They're nothing to worry about. What about the horseflies, I said. They're like old Second World War bombers looming up towards you. Hairy bodies, bright green eyes, and a little sharp triangle thing that they stick into your skin. Don't worry about them, they said. Lucky you didn't see a redback. A redback, I said. What's a redback? It's just a little spider with a red back. And what does it do? Bites you. And kills you. You don't see many of them around, do you? I said, Oh yeah, they're everywhere. They love outside toilets and little old houses in the bush. You just brush your hands across one of them and you know about it. Few people die of them every year in Australia, you know. Oh, really? I said, and what about those giant grey furry spiders? They're pretty dangerous too, aren't they? No, totally harmless, mate. You can kiss them goodnight every night. It's the little redback you want to watch out for. I felt all kind of weak. Our little old house and our outside toilet out there in the bush, they were probably teeming with redbacks. They were probably in the bed, and nobody told us. We could all have been bitten to death by hundreds of raving redbacks, all 7 of us, wiped out just like that. And we never knew.
Losing things. I hate losing things. So I think, what if there's a place somewhere where everything you ever lost goes? Somehow or other, all those things you ever lost found their way there, to this place. Maybe there's a huge hall somewhere with hundreds and hundreds of doors, and one of the doors has got your name on it. I see myself going to this huge hall one day. The way in is not very big, but once you get inside, it's enormous. It's cold and dark and damp, and there are thousands of people there, and they're all looking for the door that belongs to them, the door with their name on it. Everyone is asking everyone else, have you seen my door? What's your name? And people will say things like, no, I think I saw it over there, or, don't bother me, I'm looking for mine. So I begin to look, and I walk about, and I ask someone, excuse me, have you seen my door? Yeah, I think it's over there, she says. So I go over there, but it isn't. So I go on wandering around the big hall. I ask someone, excuse me, have you seen my door? And someone says, yeah, up the spiral stair, it's on the 2nd floor. On the way there, someone stops and says, have you seen my door? And I say, no, I haven't, sorry. I climb the spiral stair onto the 2nd floor, but my door isn't there either. So I go on, wandering around the big hall. And someone comes up to me and says, have you seen my door? Have you seen mine, I say. Yeah, it's at the end, by the steel doors. And it is. It's my door. It's got my name on it. I knock on the door. Who's there? Me. We were expecting you. The bolts draw back. The door opens, and two old people let me in and shut the door behind me. It's all here, one of them says. It's all here, the other one says. And they're right. There's my penknife from Switzerland that I lost when I was 12. The old watch I lost in my car accident. A blue anorak with a hood that I left on a railway station in Paris. Yeah, my round gold sunglasses that I once wore in a play to make me look as if I was blind. The football, that was a birthday present that I lost on the same day I got it over a wall in the burnt-out church. They're all there, yeah. A black and white and green towel, a Moroccan leather wallet. They're all here, says one of the old people. They're all here, says the other. Have you got a bag to take them away in? Says one. Here's a bag to take them away in, says the other. So I fill up the bag with all the things that I've ever lost until the shelves are empty. Come back and see us any time, says one. Come back and see us, says the other. You know where we are now, don't you? Says one. You know where we are, says the other. And they shut the door. I hear the locks and bolts on the door. And I walk away into the crowd, into the huge hall. And everyone is still walking around asking everyone else, do you know where my door is? A tall man with a steering wheel in his hand says to me, you seen my door, have you? No, I say, no, I don't expect you have, he says. I look round to see if I can remember where my door was. It's out of sight. Too many people are in the way, so I say to myself, one day I'll try and find my way back there. But something tells me, some little voice in my head says, I bet you'll never ever find that door again. You've had the only chance you'll ever have. So I make my way out of that huge dark hall with the thousands and thousands of doors and the thousands and thousands of people, and I hurry home with my bag, and I get back to my room and I spread out on the floor all those things that I lost and I've now got back again. And that makes me very happy. Yeah!
May, a woman called May, used to look after us sometimes. Her husband was a bus conductor, and he could wink with both eyes. Fantastic. We used to meet him on the bus, and when we got our tickets off him, if we were lucky, he'd wink one eye, then wink the other eye, again and again, really fast. Fantastic. But best was May. When she came over after tea, we played games. My favourite was raisins. This is how we played raisins. We tipped the raisins out of the raisins jar, and we each guessed how many raisins there were. 148, I'd say. 231, May'd say. Then we took one raisin each, counting. I take one, put it in my mouth. May takes one, 2, she puts it in her mouth. I take one, 3 into my mouth. May takes one, 4 in her mouth, and so it went on. 131 in my mouth, 132 in her mouth. I love raisins, all chewy and sweet. 201 in my mouth, 202 in May's mouth, 203, last one in my mouth. May had guessed best. She had guessed 231. But now, we'd eaten all the raisins. They were all gone. The jar was empty. Could be trouble. Anyway, then it was bedtime. At tea time the next day, we were having fruit salad, and my brother said, I'll have raisins on this. He went to the cupboard, and he saw the empty jar, and he goes, where have all the raisins gone? The jar was full yesterday. Mum, he's eaten them all. Look at his face. You can see he's eaten them. Tell him off, Mum. Tell him off. And Mum says to me, did you eat them? And I say, me and May did. And my brother says, see, I told you it's not fair, Mum. He's a greedy little pig. And then a picture came into my mind of the night before of me and May counting the raisins into our mouths, all chewy and sweet. So I said, I'm not a greedy little pig. And Mum said to my brother, raisins don't last all week, you know. But I didn't tell anyone about our game. Raisins. 203.
tea time. It's tea time, and we're sitting at the table, and my dad wants milk in his tea. Oh, could you give me the milk? I get the milk. I sit down again. Then he wants butter for his bread. Oh, could you give me the butter, he says. I get the butter, and I sit down again. Then he wants a teaspoon for his tea. Oh, could you get me a teaspoon, he says. And then my mum says, once you get that bum of yours stuck in a chair, you never get it off again, do you? And my dad says, I can't get a moment's peace round here.
Me and my brother, we sit up in bed, doing my dad's sayings. I go to bed first, and I'm just dozing off, and I hear a funny voice going, never let me see you doing that again, and it's my brother poking his finger out just like my dad going, never let me see you doing that again, and so I join in, and we're both going, never let me see you doing that again. So what happens next time I get into trouble, and my dad is telling me off, and he's going, never let me see you doing that again. So I'm looking up at my dad and I'm going, sorry Dad, yeah, sorry. And I suddenly catch sight of my brother's big face poking out from behind my dad. And while my dad is poking me with his finger in time with the words, never let me see you doing that again, just where I can see him. And my brother is saying the words as well with his mouth without making a sound, so I start laughing. And so my dad says, and it's no laughing matter. Of course my brother knows that one as well, and he's going with his mouth, and it's no laughing matter. But my dad's not stupid, he knows something's going on, so he looks round, and there's my brother with his finger poking out just like my dad, and I'm standing there laughing, oh no! And that's when we get into really big trouble.
Presents. I gave my mum and dad all kinds of Christmas presents. I used to go round the shops for hours looking at razors, key rings, clothes brushes, bath salts, chocolate gingers. Once I thought I'd made a breakthrough. I was at Salmon's the Ironmonger's, and there they were. 2 jug things. They were both made of glass, except for the tops. One was a milk jug, and it had a bright green plastic top, and there was a little lever on it, and when you pulled the lever, a little door slid open, and you poured your milk out through the little door. The other jug was for sugar. This one had a bright green plastic top as well, but this one was a kind of funnel, so you could pour the sugar out, but it wasn't any kind of funnel. It was special. It had a little gadget inside the funnel, so you only poured out 1 teaspoonful at a time. Magic. So I bought these wonderful things, and I gave them to my mum and dad for Christmas. They said they were very nice. They were very pleased. And for a week or so after Christmas, they were always on the table. If anyone wanted any milk or sugar, I'd say, can I do it for you? Do you want milk in your tea? Let me do it. And I rushed to pick up the jug, pulled back the lever, and the milk poured out of the trap door. Sugar? And I picked up the sugar jug, tipped it up to pour out the magic 1 teaspoonful. Another spoonful, anyone? And I poured out the second one. Anyone else? I became the milk and sugar king. I had to be the milk and sugar driver. All week I was pouring for everyone. Breakfast, dinner, tea. After a week or two, I noticed that the milk bottle was getting back onto the table. No jug. I noticed the sugar bowl and the boring old spoon were getting back onto the table. No sugar jug. You see, someone had to fill those 2 jugs. So I said, I'll do it. I'll get the new jug. Hey, yeah, I'll get the sugar thing if you want, okay, yeah. So I poured the milk and the sugar into the jugs and put them onto the table. The only trouble was, they'd got their milk and sugar by then. They didn't need me to drive their milk and sugar for them. My reign as the milk and sugar king was over. I was beaten by the bottle and the bowl. My bright green plastic-topped jugs went up on top of the kitchen cupboard with the jam jars without lids. We left them there when we moved from that house. They're probably still there. Presents. It was Christmas Eve. I knew Father Christmas was Mum and Dad. I knew he didn't come down the chimney. Instead, they came through the door. I knew it didn't all come out of a sack, but instead they left a heap of stuff at the end of the bed. I knew it. What I didn't know was what was going to be in the heap. But I went to sleep. So then I woke up. Nothing. So I went to sleep. So then I woke up. Nothing. Oh, was that piece of paper there before? Must have been. So I went to sleep. So then I woke up. Nothing. And it's morning. Has Father Christmas forgotten me? I mean, Mum and Dad? Get up, feeling bad, feeling worse than bad, terrible, nearly crying. That piece of paper, what is it? It's a picture of a bike, and underneath it says, downstairs. So it's rush downstairs, front room, and there it was, propped up against a chair in front of the telly, big and shining. The bike, of course. Ha! Father Christmas couldn't stuff a bike down the chimney, could he?
The project. At school, we were doing a project. You know the kind of thing. The Vikings. Transport. Wood. Our project was Holland. There we were reading My Friend Hans from Holland. And we made windmills and stuck blue strips of paper onto white strips of paper. They were canals. And we kept talking about tulips and cheese. In the end, I thought they grew cheese and ate tulips. Then suddenly one day, our teacher, Miss Goodall, said there was an inspector coming in. She said he wasn't going to inspect us. He was going to inspect her. And we were all to help her by being really good and answering all the questions that he asked us. Later that day he came in, he had a moustache. We behaved. Miss Goodall behaved. There we all were, sitting in our rows, behind our desks, breathing very, very quietly. And he looked at our windmills. And then our canals. And he said, "What do they eat in Holland?" And I didn't put my hand up in case I said tulips. But Sheila MacLaine said cheese. And he said, "What do they grow in Holland?" And I didn't put my hand up for that one either. But Margot Vane said tulips. And he asked some more questions and we were doing really well. Miss Goodall was trying very hard not to look proud. And then he asked, "Who is the Queen of Holland?" There was silence. No one knew who was the Queen of Holland. Miss Goodall frowned and then started looking all round the class with her eyes looking all hoping. And then suddenly I remembered this funny little rhyme that my friend Haribo used to say. I put up my hand. "Yes," said the inspector, "Queen Juliana is a fat banana," I said. Miss Goodall looked awful. Haribo was sitting in front of me and I saw him snort and start giggling. "Sorry, what did you say?" said the inspector. "Queen Juliana." I said. "God," he said, "you're right, quite right." Miss Goodall was delighted. I was delighted. The inspector was delighted. And Haribo was still snorting away like that.
Eddie and the car. The stupidest thing I have ever done happened in France. We were going to have a picnic, so we were driving along the road in our little yellow Renault 4. Have you ever seen a Renault 4? It's like a square tin box. If you lean on it, the walls are so thin, your hand goes straight through the side of the car. We were off to have a picnic. Have you noticed how long it takes parents to make up their minds where to stop for a picnic? It takes us longer to find where to have the picnic than it takes to eat it. We stop, we get out, we spread the sheet, we unload the boxes and bags and bottles, we sit down and it's... What's that? What on earth could smell like that? A dead dog? Okay, everyone, back in the car, drive on. We stop, we get out, we spread the sheet, we unload the boxes and bags and bottles, we sit down and it's... Wasps, hundreds of them. Okay, everyone, back in the car, drive on. In the end, we got to this perfect place. Back the slope, laid everything on the ground, sat down. Eddie, do you want some chicken? Eddie, do you want some crisps? A drink? Nah. Right, well, you toddle off and leave us to eat in peace. So Eddie, who was 3 years old at the time, walked off to the car and got into the back seat. He looked out the window and called out, "Look at me! I'm in the car!" Joe, who was 7, looks over and starts giggling back at Eddie. "Look at Eddie, Dad," says Joe. "Turn round, Joe. Don't take any notice of it. It only encourages him. Turn round." Then Eddie climbed into the front seat of the car. He grabbed hold of the steering wheel and shouted out at us, "Look at me! I'm driving!" And Joe says, "Look at Eddie, Dad. He's driving." I say, "Turn round, Joe. Don't take any notice of it. It only encourages him. Turn round." We went on eating. Then Joe looked up and said, "Dad, the car's moving." I said, "Don't be silly, Joe." And I turned round to look at the car. He was right. The car was moving slowly down the slope towards the road with Eddie at the wheel. He's screaming, "The car's moving! The car's moving!" Now, if you were a sensible, intelligent person at this moment, you might perhaps go over to the car, open the door, get Eddie out, jump in, jam on the brakes, and stop the car. That would be the sensible thing to do. Slightly less sensible, but still quite sensible, would be to go over to the car, open the door, get Eddie out, close the door, and wave goodbye to the car. At least Eddie would be safe. What I did was try to stop the car. I rushed over and grabbed hold of the pillar between the 2 doors and tried to stop the car going down the slope. Eddie was screaming out the window, "The car's moving!" And I'm grunting back at him, "I know it's moving." All the time the car is moving down the slope and I'm hanging on. On the roof of the car is a tray of peaches, so Joe is calling out, "Dad, look at the peaches! The peaches are flying off the roof of the car!" And I'm saying, "Never mind the peaches." And Eddie is shouting, "The car's moving! I know it's moving." Now, I know that what we've got coming up next is the road, so I think it'll be flatter there. The car will slow down. I'll be able to stop the car. We get to the road. The car doesn't slow down. I am not able to stop the car. "Dad, look at the peaches." "Never mind the peaches. The car's moving." "I know it's moving." We are now heading for a 12-foot ditch. The car nosedives down the ditch with me still hanging on. It bounces once, twice on its nose and lands up stuck headfirst in a hedge with its wheels spinning in midair. I opened the door, grabbed hold of Eddie, got him out, and he jumped into his mother's arms. And bitter, he sunk his teeth right into her arm. Joe is walking around saying, "Look at the peaches! Yeah, look at the peaches!" Eddie is okay. Now to get the car out of the hedge. Get in, start up, into reverse, and nothing. The little yellow Renault 4 has front-wheel drive. The front wheels are turning over and over in midair, and nothing else is moving. What to do? I got out the car and looked around. There's no one anywhere. We're in the middle of the French countryside. We're stuck in a hedge miles from home. Then I looked again. And up the road, I could see in a field someone's backside. A man was bending down, digging potatoes. So I ran up the road and I spoke to him. "Excusez-moi, monsieur, je suis anglais, je suis stupide. I'm English and I'm stupid, and my little boy got on the front seat of the car and the car went down the hill and it stuck and said, "Both. This is French for, I haven't got a clue. You're on your own, mate. Try it. Look, raise both hands by your side, hands upwards, and as you said, you puff your cheeks out. Both. So now what? Far away in the distance I see a man ploughing a field. So I started off running up the road towards him, and as I'm running along, I start to realize that I am only wearing my underpants. When we had the picnic, I thought that I would sunbathe, so here I am, running down the road in my underpants. No matter, must press on. As I got nearer to the field where the man was ploughing, I started thinking, how do you get someone to stop? How do you get someone to stop ploughing a field? So I climbed over the fence and stood in front of the tractor, held out both my hands and started waving. I don't suppose the farmer had ever seen a large hairy bloke in his underpants standing in front of his tractor waving his hands. But he brought the tractor up to me and stopped it. And he said, "Hello," which is French for, "Well, have you got something to say or not? Or are you completely stupid?" As you said, you have to nod your head upwards, leaving your mouth open after you've said it. The bang bit sounds a bit like bang, doesn't it? Say it through your nose. Hello. So I said, "Excusez-moi, monsieur, je suis anglais, je suis stupide. I'm English and I'm stupid." And my little boy got on the front seat of the car and the car went down the hill and it stuck. The man looked at me and slowly wagged his finger at me and said, "Jamais, jamais, jamais, never, never, never let a child get in the front seat of a car because they can easily..." Yeah. No, I know that now, but do you think you could help me? I could pay you. It would be very nice. So, 3 hours later, after he had lunch, he came along with his tractor, his wife, his dog, and a long chain. They tied the chain round the back bumper of the car and they pulled, and they heaved, and they heaved, and they pulled, just like the story of the enormous turnip, and they pulled, and they heaved the bumper right off the car. Thanks. Well, in the end, they got the little yellow Renault 4 out of the bush and out of the ditch, and after we'd kicked it a few times, it worked. It was a little bit difficult going round corners, but it worked. We've got a photo of the little yellow Renault 4 stuck in the ditch in our photo album. It's great. It reminds me of the stupidest thing I've ever done.
The Skyfoogle. There was a man who turned up round our way once, put up a tent in the park he did, put notices all round the street saying that he was going to put on show a terrifying creature called the Skyfoogle. No one had ever seen this thing before. The show was on for 2 o'clock the next day. Next day we all turned up to see the fiercest animal in the world. The man took the money at the door. We all poured into the tent with a curtain in front of it. We all sat down and waited. The man went off behind the curtain. Suddenly we all heard a terrible noise. There was an awful yelling and crying. There was the noise of chains rattling and someone shouting. Suddenly the man came running onto the stage in front of the curtains. All his clothes were torn. There was blood on his face and he screamed, "Quick! Get out! Get out of here! The Skyfoogle has escaped!" We all got up and ran out the door and got away as fast as we could. By the time we got ourselves together, the man had gone. We never saw him again. None of us ever saw our money ever again either. And none of us has ever seen the Skyfoogle.
Tomato 1. Here's me, and my mum's just given me a tomato. And if there's one thing I can't stand, it's tomatoes. You know that fleshy bit? The way it sticks to your teeth, and you know all those slimy little seeds, the way they slide round your mouth. Ooh, I can't stand it. Anyway, my mum says, "Eat it," and I say, "Don't want to." She says, "Eat it," and I say, "I hate tomatoes, all slimy." And she says, "Don't you talk like that."
When I was a girl, I had to eat whatever my mum put in front of me. Do you think I could talk to my mother like that? Do you know there are some people in the world who give their right arm to have a tomato, to have half a tomato, because they haven't had anything to eat for a whole week? I'm telling you this, if you don't eat your tomato, there'll be no afters, and I've made something rather nice. I think you know what I mean. So here goes. In goes a bit of tomato. Just like I thought. First the fleshy bit, it sticks. Then the slimy bits, they slide about. And when it all goes down my throat, it stick and slide all the way down. Oh no, this is horrible! So I start to sulk. I make my eyes go dim. I push my lips out to make myself look all rotten. Don't you dare sulk, she says. I'm not having you sitting there throwing one of your tantrums. I don't have to put up with you behaving like this. All I'm asking you to do is to eat one tomato. It's taken months to grow. It's full of goodness. So stop that stupid sulking, will you? But I just sit there in my great big sulk. I never did eat that tomato. Mind you, I never got any afters either.
Tomato 2, or How I Learned to Love Tomatoes. When I get in, if there's one thing I love, it's a fat, red tomato. I love the feel of my tongue and lips on the tight skin, and I make my teeth cut into the flesh so the juice jumps into my mouth, the coolness and the wetness. So now I get some pepper and perfume grains on the flesh, so with my next bit a tasty feel starts under my tongue. I get a piece of bread and all the wheaty mealy stuff mixes with the juicy tomato stuff, and that's the way it goes down now. Bread and tomato, tomato and bread in a lovely, wet, grainy, savoury, flavoury, round the mouth, fruity, bready mush.
The Hypnotizer. Once a boy called Richard came to school and said, I can hypnotise people. So he said, yeah, I bet you can't. So he said, okay, playtime. So playtime. We all went onto the playground. He said, right, who wants to go? So Trevor said, yeah, me. So this boy, Richard, made Trevor lie down on the ground on his back, and he took this gold ring out of his pocket and he put it very carefully between Trevor's eyes on the bridge of his nose. Then Richard took this conker out of his pocket. It was on the end of a string, and he starts swinging the conker to and fro in front of Trevor's eyes, and he starts up talking in this spooky voice. Watch the conker, go to sleep, go to sleep. Watch the conker, go to sleep, go to sleep. And it went on for ages. We're all crowding round, dead quiet, watching Trevor, listening to Richard going, go to sleep, go to sleep. Is it working, we said? Is he going to sleep? He's hypnotised. Blimey. Suddenly, the going in bell went, boing, boing. At that, Trevor goes and stands up. He just stands up, dusts himself down, so we all crowded around and going, were you asleep? You were asleep, weren't you, Trevor? Hey, were you hypnotised? And he looks at us, all fed up, and he says, only thing that happened was I got a rotten headache. After that, we used to go around telling people, you see that bloke over there? Him, Richard, he's brilliant. He can hypnotise people. He's a hypnotiser, you know. And Richard, he'd hear us saying all this, and he'd go, yeah, I'll come off it, you lot. I'm not that good at it.